No, I think that's it.
Mr. Silver?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have anything at this time either. Communication, city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Just want to remind everybody that we've got a Veterans Day program coming up on November the 11th at 11 o'clock out here in front of City Hall. We will have our new monument to the Vietnam veterans hopefully in the next 3 to 4 days. It will be placed out there, so please come by and look at it. We will have a dedication and a Veterans Day ceremony that day.
That's exciting news.
Yes, absolutely. I want to thank a lot of people who have had a lot to do with it. Mostly, I can't remember the young lady's name that was here that kind of brought to it. But this is total. But this council's driven that and approved that and allowed us to work on that. So-
Stayed on top of the squad.
Yes, I saw her somewhere in a restaurant the other day, and she came up, and she didn't know who I was, but she knew Stump, and he introduced me, so that took care of that. Thanks, Stump. JR's coming up. In light of what happened a few minutes ago with Denny praying and Denny going out and helping with our escorts with the funerals and stuff, I've got a presentation JR and I do. Chaplain Denny Manning, City of East Ridge, appreciation for your dedicated services in East Ridge City Chaplain. We want to give that to you today.
Appreciate this. It means a lot to me. I don't do it for, all of you know here now, I don't do it for popularity. I do it for my heart because one of them knows you have a loved one passes on, and somebody there to be able to help them and support them. And it thrills me to be able to do it. And I appreciate JR and all of you, city manager, everybody. Appreciate all y'all. I'm going on 10 years. And it's been an honor to serve everyone of you. I don't care if you're rich, poor, broke, you bald headed, you got no teeth and nothing else, I still appreciate it. Because I love every one of you. And there's been a lot of funeral sessions. See a lot of folks crying because they lost their loved ones in it. A lot of people don't bother but it gets next to me because they see somebody's reaching out and appreciate JR. When he gets on top of it, he finds out, and Duncan also, and all the other places that comes out, helps in this, and the department. That's our job, folks. I'll say this and I'll sit down and shut down. Because if I talk much more, I might want to take my offering, but I'll say this. That's the last thing that we can do for anybody in our city is have an escort to the gravesite. Have some kind of kind word to say to them and encourage them, not to sit down and give up. I pastored one church for 15 years, another for 35 years, done many a funeral, talked to many people. And I reckon the hardest one I ever had, Mayor, when you have little girls, about 2.5, 3-year-old, come up to me and said, ask me a question, why did my daddy have to die? Folks, that's hard to answer a question. And I tell her, I said, well, what we'll do, me and you will join hands, along with your mother. And we'll have a prayer. And I'll tell you this, before your daddy left you, he went to be with Jesus. Because the Bible says, be out to the body to be present for the Lord. And I believe that is what my Bible says. You may not believe it, but I know it happens. And JR just lost a wonderful loved one. And I know how you feel. And all the rest of you here lost a loved one. I know how you feel. I've been there. I've lost a bunch of them. And I appreciate all y'all. God bless you.
Thank you.
He says, the city manager says that's all he has. Before we get into the business items on the agenda tonight, just to reiterate, I think most of us have stayed here through the agenda session into this meeting. We did have 3 additions to the agenda. Item K, ordinance 981, regarding amending the zoning ordinance. Item L, resolution 2435, in regard to indoor soccer uniforms. And item M, discussion of playground. Can we do old business, just one item? Let's do one item, old business. We'll take a short break. Item A, resolution 2430, under old business.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the mayor to execute the attached extension of employment agreement for Andrew E. Hyatt with regard to the position of city manager. The contract was voted on September 25th, 2014. Mayor, Councilman Gravett has sent to me a letter that he asked me to read in conjunction with that resolution. If I can read that. Mayor and fellow council members, due to illness, I regret not being able to attend tonight's meeting. One of the items on tonight's agenda is extending the city manager, Mr. Hyatt's contract. In my opinion, Mr. Hyatt has performed his duties as city manager with professionalism and has brought a sense of accountability based on job performance at City Hall. With East Ridge at the beginning of an economic development revitalization, I think it is extremely important to maintain the stability of the person that runs the day-to-day operations of the city manager. Therefore, I wish to submit this letter of support extending Mr. Hyatt's contract to city manager. Thank you, Mark Gravett, East Ridge City Council.
Make a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2430. Have any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Thune?
Yes.
Councilmember Manning?
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. And with that, we will take a 10-minute break. It's 8 o'clock. Right now, we'll come back at 10 after 8. And I'm going to restart at 10 after 8. That's right.
Tennessee to amend ordinance number 971 entitled, an ordinance to provide revenue for the city of East Ridge, Tennessee, fiscal year July 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015, appropriating the same to the payment of expenses of the municipal government by designating fund balance of the general fund by changing the expenditures of the general fund and by changing the expenditures of the capital project fund. Here on first reading.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city would like to propose this budget amendment in accordance with the incentive agreement adopted 2 months ago by this council for the Bass Pro Jordan Crossing development. Going back to how we financed that agreement, $1.5 million. The bulk of this amendment, the reason for us bringing this forward at this time is to ensure that we're doing everything appropriately, and ensure that, again, per the agreement, $1.5 million of the whole comes from the general fund reserve, and you'll find that listed here under economic development assistance, and then it's a new line item. Another $1.5 million from the capital project fund, which will in fact be financing, after we transfer that, we'll finance with the bond issue that's been discussed, and again, it's a part of that agreement and part of the firehouse, the new fire station. A couple other smaller items in there include under the capital project fund, the tent, the mower for the Parks Department, under general government, the amount $13,505 is we discussed, I think, previously during the prior month financial statement, we had an increase in insurance premiums just due to certain circumstances last year. And That's typical, that we learn about that after we budgeted and started the fiscal year. And then, under police and administration, there was an error in the budget as adopted, misplaced digits, so we wanted to correct that and clean that up while we were presenting this to the council. So with your permission, we'd like to ask you to consider this.
We have a motion in regard to ordinance 980.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Do you have any other questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Day?
Yes.
Councilmember Manning?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes. Item B, resolution 2426.
Get to that, let me mention it, I guess for Ms. Middleton's benefit. That's here, an ordinance here on first reading. The charter requires it be 13 days between first and second readings. So it cannot come up next week, it'll have to come up the next time as well as the other ones.
Okay.
All right, resolution 2426, a resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the city manager or his designee to enter into a sponsorship advertising agreement with Dick's Sporting Goods for sponsorship of youth sports programs at Camp Jordan Park.
Make a motion to approve.
So a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? And this had been a item of some debate in the past. I'm assuming that all the details were worked out to our satisfaction.
It's been modified. And Mr. Barton indicates to me that Dick's is not providing, for example, equipment to us that may have football helmets and may have liability issues with it, so that's not.
All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Day?
Yes.
Councilmember Manning?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll?
Yes.
Mayor Lambert?
Yes. Item C, resolution number 2427.
Resolution of the City Council of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the mayor and city manager to execute an agreement with Public Financial Management to perform financial advisory services for the city.
Mayor, members of the council, we received we sent out a request for competitively sealed proposals. We received 2 responses and felt that the most responsive and most certainly the most qualified proposal by far was PFM. After reviewing both proposals thoroughly, I think that I've been engaged in conversation with them regarding the price and work with Mark Mamatoff during the process. And not only did we come to an agreement that I think is fair, but I think that the experience that PFM has in bond issues of this size, for cities of this size with similar bond ratings, I think that it's just what they're going to bring with them is going to be able to find the right underwriters so that we get the best deal out, so that we're ultimately going to save through selecting this financial services firm. And we have Josh McCoy here from BFM. If you have any questions for him or me, I'm glad to answer those at this time.
We had tweaked the contract.
We had renegotiated the contract so that ultimately we would get a little bit more for the same amount. Mark Mamatoff and his firm could have provided some of the services. We could have paid them a little bit less, but ultimately Mark's firm would have charged a little bit more to do the same work. So we again were looking for the best deal for the city, and I think we found that in this contract.
Very Very good. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2427. Question. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Thill.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item D, Resolution number 2429.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, awarding a bid for a multi-use truck.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. The second was for discussion purposes.
We went with lease bid with the demo model, same warranty as a new truck, 2012, when it turned out at 2,800 miles on it. This truck here, see, we need a snow spreader, sander neck or something, you set this bed off and make all different kinds of beds going. Sand spreader, asphalt recycle things, reuse asphalt, you need to keep it.
Will you tell us again what the difference was between the demo and the new vehicle, please?
The new one was just a chassis only. The 63,000, that was just a truck, no bed or nothing. And the other one was 34, was a 2006,
And it had,
had 175,000 miles.
Then you had one that was 20,000 more than what we're,
right.
Yeah, it
and
was,
it was already, that's what I thought you were asking.
oh yeah, it was 2015.
Similar,
Same company basically, just,
So the one at Lee Smith, is it, will have a bed on it?
it comes with a dovetail flat bed and then the box bed below the lead.
it is a true multi-purpose use vehicle. We can
It's
adapt
a
it
swamp
to
loader,
the
what they call it, the truck, it's a swamp loader. They've got probably 20 different beds, so different beds about them on the dump truck. Get truck.
You're gonna come back for a dump truck bed and
Hey.
whatever.
So yes, sir, we sure are.
If we
Do
need
you like stuff?
I don't need a dump truck, Norman might.
Don't let Norman get it from me.
Well, keep some food.
All right, do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, well, we do have a motion and a second.
Motion that I approve.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I'm saying
think
that's correct. Yes. Yes, so the motion was to, I'm sorry. Yeah, I think she's
Oh,
got
you got, okay. I didn't know.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Thill.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes.
Thank you, Bo.
Item E, Resolution 2431.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, approving the acceptance of the fiscal year 2015 Tennessee Department of Transportation's High Visibility Enforcement Grant.
Mayor, members of the council, the high visibility grant allows the city a 100% grant, no match. This comes from the governor's highway safety office, and we would ask the council to approve the grant acceptance and the applications to get that in right away. We'd like to use these funds for to help provide some of the funding for the in-car computers and cameras.
Motion approved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Thill.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item F, Resolution 2432.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East city manager to execute a contract with Thompson Engineering to provide professional engineering services with regard to the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Clean Energy Grant.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city would ask you to consider approval of the professional services contract, this resolution for services with Thompson Engineering. As part of the Clean Energy Grant, Thompson Engineering would assist us in reviewing the bids that we're planning to open next week, as discussed earlier, on the HVAC system to make sure that they meet the specifications for the grant. And the idea is to look for efficiencies in the new system, and we need their assistance and expertise there. So we just want to be sure that we're prepared when that comes.
What is it will cost?
That's my question too. What's the fees?
Well, we would not, the fee would be
Looks like maybe it's a 50-50.
yeah, the fee would be covered under the grant.
Right.
The fee would be covered under the grant amount, which is a 50/50 match. We don't anticipate needing much of their services, and I don't have that number with me, and I apologize for that. We would need, I'd be glad to get that to you.
How much is the grant?
The grant is for, the total grant is for $145,000. It's $72,500 from the city and $72,500.
And this is an eligible cost under the grant, so this is reimbursable. We will pay half or whatever.
It would be, it's an amount, it would be an amount not to exceed, not to exceed per the city's purchasing policy, an amount of approval by myself. and city managers.
Less than 10.
50,
No, there you go.
Easily.
Okay.
5,
Correct. Definitely less than 10,000, probably more in the $5,000 range, or even maybe a little less than that. Within my
So that's actually something you can spend.
that is correct. We just, since it had that grant tied to it, we wanted to just bring it to the council.
And as part of the grant application process. As part of the grant application process, having a resolution for the professional services is required in order to get that reimbursement.
I'll make a motion to approve. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethany.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item G, resolution number 2433.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the advancing of state salary supplement payments for firefighters and police officers.
Mayor and council, typically, this is our state salary supplement. Every fireman and every police officer that goes through their 40-hour in service to be a certified either firefighter or police officer, the state pays them $600 each. That's one time a year. Typically, what the city has done in the past is the city goes ahead and fronts the money here a couple of months before December. That way, it's kind of a little bonus for the guys who kind of get it at the same time every year. And then the city is refunded by the state, typically around May or June of 2015. So it'll still be in the same budget, but the city will be refunded by the state.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethany.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item H, resolution 2434.
Resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Electric Power Board to provide additional internet services to Camp Jordan Park Arena.
Mayor, council, this is in conjunction with the Christmas lights that's going on in there, so cars when they drive through would have access to this. This is covered in Mr. Martin's budget, so it's just an item that needed to come before you because it wasn't presented to us by EPB in the form of an agreement, 36-month agreement, and that's why it's before you tonight.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethune.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item I, approval to purchase a fire/rescue engine.
I want to apologize to council for that. This is a big purchase. I want to make sure that everybody was clear on exactly what we're looking at. First of all, we'll start out with the National Joint Powers Alliance. That's a certificate that I gave you. The City of East Ridge is now a member of that. The City of Chattanooga, the City of Knoxville, the City of Memphis, all your large cities and other cities in the state are all members of this. Being this, there are different vendors that we can go to being a member of this, and it shows competitive pricing for different items. Everything from bathroom tissue up to fire trucks. There are vendors on here that are approved through National Powers to be not only a fair market dealer, also approved comptroller from the state of Tennessee. The third sheet, the sheet that has three options on it, gentlemen. This is a rescue engine pumper. We have one now at Station 1. What this truck would do is it would replace the existing engine that's at Station 2. That engine, like I said, we've had a lot of maintenance problems. We would like to be able to replace it and turn around and sell that truck. Okay. Option 1 is finance at the time we order. If we order this truck now, we have 4 options on that level that we can finance for 1, 5, 7, or 10 years. If we finance typically on a fire truck for 10 years, the cost goes, our cost will be $684,284. With option 2 is 100% prepayment of the entire contract. We take this and we pay it out of our capital plan that we had. We would not pay for this until the completion of the chassis in July of 2015. That'll be in our next budget. So we would not even be paying for this truck until 2015. Okay? The third option is pay for the truck now. If we pay for the truck now, straight out, which we, 1, haven't planned on that, 2, haven't budgeted for that, and 3, it would only save us about $6,000. I'm sorry, That's correct, $6,000. So what we're looking at, I favor option 2, which would be 100% prepayment. Would be no interest rate. We would save money on our interest rate. We would save money on a financing cost. Pay the truck off in July, around July the 1st or the month of July, whenever we pay for it in full. But that'll put us into the 2015 budget. At that time, we would only pay $579,257. We would be locked in. If we sign an agreement now, we'll be locked in at this price. Okay? If we don't sign an agreement now, we will not be locked in until we'll not have that option.
What's this, we're on option 2, it's got a chassis prepaid discount of $9,598, and already discounted $3,825, so that, and in the option 3, you're saving some money, but you gotta pay it up front.
Option 3 is going to order the truck now, at this time, which we can't do. These are 3 options he threw out there, and I told him that. I said, there's no way we can do it now, it's not budgeted in the 2014 budget. What we planned and we discussed is putting this in the 2015 budget. We're going ahead and getting locked in now for this price. The first payment would come out July 2015, and would be locked in at the price we have now, and that's when the chassis was completed. The chassis would not be completed until 2015, July. Us going ahead and signing an agreement with them, they're going ahead and building the chassis. Okay?
Go ahead.
I want to say something that you've looked at all 3 of these options.
Yes, sir, I have.
To
I feel like I agree with Mike that number 2, we discussed this in fact when we were working on our 3-year capital plan. We discussed with the council and budgeting our capital improvement plan for this year and looking ahead. Again, we want to start looking ahead more here, and I think that we've budgeted that 3-year plan. There will be funds available in this year as we get our next fiscal year to finance this supplement. So that's what we're recommending at this point.
Council, we also looked at we took $20,000 of equipment off that new truck. And what we discussed was we still have good equipment on the truck that's down there now, with the exception of the hose. And we would take all that equipment and put it over on the new truck.
what are you going to do with this truck?
Like the used truck will sell. And that money there can go back into whatever the council decides.
Have you got any feeling, well, it won't be your,
So,
any idea of what the
I have no idea,
value of the
Council.
truck would be?
No, sir, I have no idea what that
What
truck.
model is that?
Typically, fire trucks sell all over the country, and I have no idea what this truck will sell for.
What year, like Larry said, what year?
The station's 7 years old. I think it's about 9 years old. That truck is.
That might be a small town, be interesting.
And we see a lot of that. We see a lot of small towns around Chattanooga benefiting from the other cities buying apparatus like that. Some cities that don't run as much as us, it may be a good truck.
Typically, the group putting this deal together for sellers ours will connect you with some people that you can sell it to, and we don't have to put it out for bid. They just, offer a price and go from there. It doesn't have to be a bid process for something like this if you sell in another city.
What's the problem with the truck you got now?
The problem with that truck is it has major chassis problems. There's major electrical problems. So somebody that gets it, they can get it for a decent price. We put some money back into it. Typically, what we're doing monthly is we're sinking money into it that I don't have in the budget for it. And it's going to cost us more in the long run. The last time it came out of the shop, I spent like $4,000. We spent $4,000 from our budget.
What is the age for trucks? What we got now? We've got how many trucks?
On your international trucks, which is the long nose type, typically you'll get 15 years out of those, typically.
What is our, that's what I was asking, what is all our trucks?
The custom trucks, we've got custom and we've got the conventional. Your conventional usually is 15 years. Your custom trucks, which is the last two that we've ordered, typically 25 years out of those trucks. This truck here, being a custom truck, us will probably never see another order for another engine like this. That truck should outlast us.
I hope we ever get over 25 years.
I'm sorry, as far as being on council,
I think that with the, with the fire trucks, I think we need to look at,
oh, that got turned bad. I'm sorry.
I think that, we need to kind of look ahead, like say, on some of this big equipment like this, and don't wait till the last minute to get rid of something. Typically, what we do on even those school buses, we'll get rid of them, and they still have some life to them, where somebody else can use them.
Typically with a fire truck like this, it having fire apparatus on it, this truck would sell probably for over $50,000.
And that could,
And it being a rescue engine, it has some benefits.
One we sold where I was before, we got 75 for it, so, I mean, yeah, they bring a pretty good, you get your money back for sure.
It being a custom, a rescue pumper, and the age of it, you can see 45, 50,000 easy off of it.
I'd like to motion to approve this, and then we'll finish discussing.
So, you made a motion to,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Pat, you wanted to make a statement? Okay. All right, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, it's 50,000.
Awesome.
50,000 to go back into the capital, I might recommend going back into the capital fund so that we have other sources other than general tax. Again, that's just.
So are we voting on option 2? Is that what we're voting on?
Make a motion for option 2.
Now second.
Okay. So we do have a motion and a second to go with option 2. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethune.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Sewell.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Thanks, Chief. Item J, discussion of purchase of property for fire station number 2.
The next week you're coming back for a ladder truck, is that right?
I think that's Mayor and Council, the fire chief, Chief Williams and I have identified a piece of property that we feel like would be a good location for a new fire station, and I'll let Chief Williams tell you what it's about.
Thanks, City Manager. We've been discussing with Mr. Richard Brown. Richard is part of Brown Brothers Construction. Brown Brothers Construction on a piece of property in the 6900 block of Reno Road. That property also has a easement that comes off of Scruggs Road. Talking with Mr. Brown has made an offer to the city. He will sell 3 acres to the city, and he would donate 1 acre. Okay, that's 4 acres at the cost of $70,000 an acre. So we'll only be paying for 3,000 acres, which is $210,000. Okay, the site itself does not appear that it's going to need a lot of major fill-in or anything of that nature. It's the type of soil that we want. That's what everybody's been using for building construction and such. Typically, we may have to come in and bring in some topsoil or even dig a little bit of that out. But as far as the dirt that's there now is suitable for building, so site preparation would probably need not be a whole lot.
The road that goes up to it, you're talking about building on up the road at the top?
Yes, sir, there is, where AAA Lock sign is, just past AAA Lock, there's a road that cuts over, okay? When you cut over on that piece of property, as soon as you turn on that piece of property, that will turn into the city of East Ridge if the city had purchased that property. On the other side of the gully there's enough property there where we can put the fire station. We've actually taken Station 2, per square footage, added one fire bay, and the station might have to cock it a little bit, but laying it on there, it would fit.
Now, are you saying getting to it is Georgia?
I'm
Getting
sorry.
back?
No, sir. Everybody that's Tennessee.
It's all Tennessee.
All that right there is Tennessee.
What are you gonna do about the two dips in there before you get to it?
We've got a road there that goes over to it. There was tile laid there. Now, that's something that we could discuss with TDEC in the future. And if TDEC gives us approval to fill those in, that would be some more land that the city would have that would be, usable for something else. There is a small piece of property that is beside AAA Bar, there in the front, that the city could look at purchasing, that is part of this purchase. The city could look at a couple of years from now, if they wanted to sell that piece of property, and probably get in a couple of years from now, as much as we would be paying for this piece of property, this whole 4 acres.
Out of the 4 acres, how much of it can you build on?
I would say the 1 acre that he's donating, I'm guessing is probably gonna be the remaining. The rest of it, we'll have to look at water management for runoff. We'll have to have a survey, go down and survey exactly where the property line is. If there's soil samples or anything of that nature, it needs to be tested. We'll just have to have an engineer look at it. And looking what we've seen physically, I walked across a piece of property. City Manager Hines walked across the property. I can probably tell you about where the rock is, but I'm not an architect. I would say that in the near future, we need to have an engineer look at that.
That's what I said.
What we probably do, have brought up a good point, we need to appraise, need to get some soil samples done, core sampling, so we make sure that it's not got something buried underneath. We will have to get, we'll get permission from Mr. Brown to go on the property.
That's what I would like to do right now. There are other things that are going on adjacent to that piece of property. I would like to see if we can make some kind of promise note with Mr. Brown at this point on the property with maybe stipulations, that we don't run into any issues with ground soil sampling or anything of that nature. And make sure that we're getting exactly what we're quoted, you know what I'm saying?
So we want to give earnest money for the property before we get anything looked at on it?
And we probably just want to offer him an option on the
I would
property.
say, yes, sir. The option of the 210,000, that's the reason I would say, I would want, if it's okay with the council, the city manager to make that agreement with Mr. Brown to some type of promissory note where, hey, as long as everything comes back fine, we'd like to purchase this property from you. If we run into an issue with soil sampling or anything else, then we granted that option.
We can do it one of two ways. We can either purchase an option from it at a minimal cost and gives an option time for us to look at the property, or we can have a contract for the purchasing the property with contingencies, like core samples and stuff like that. Either one, same thing with that.
Well, we got another meeting next week. Can we get all that done before that meeting?
I see why not.
Yeah.
Well, but which one are we gonna do? Are we gonna have the contract with contingencies, or we're gonna have the option?
Legal, which way should we go?
He may have a preference between one of the two, I don't know.
They have a preference for the bid.
We've all been out here a long time. I don't know anything that's been right there on that piece of property, other than that ridge. But that unknown, I want to make sure, since that's going to be city property, or possibly could be city property in the future, that I want to make sure that we do know everything about that before we make that purchase.
Well, especially back towards Scruggs Road, we use that as a driveway.
Does anybody know that? Would it be rock? I mean, does it perk or have you asked or?
So there used to be one home there, and you remember years ago they called that old house? That's correct. That driveway and the driveway behind it are both in Tennessee. They both go up to that piece of property. We know that for a fact because there's already survey markers and state line.
Back then, they didn't care if it perked or not. That's what you gotta worry about.
I thought you only had to have parking for the septic.
Because I don't know what you plan on using, if you got 3 acres usable, is the possibility of anything else there?
The only other option would be out there in front.
If we fill a hole in the front.
There is a flat piece of property, like I said, that are adjacent to AAA Law. That would be an option that the fire department has no interest in using that. It doesn't benefit the station at all. If the city wanted to sell that in the future, that would be an option out there. The city could probably get, in the future, 2 or 3 years, enough off that piece of property to pay for the whole property. That was the thing we were looking at.
Our understanding also, he has an option on some property with somebody with a retailer of some sort that's just into Georgia, but on that property, which would, to people who don't know what state line is, or the city limit, it would look like it's in East Reed. That
That's
whole
correct.
area right there is going to develop very soon.
We do.
But let me suggest this. Let me suggest that since we're meeting a week from today, that the city manager talk to Mr. Brown directly and see what Mr. Brown says about it. If Mr. Brown requires, for example, a contract with contingencies rather than an option agreement, then we go that route, and then we can get something prepared in form of resolution hopefully by next meeting.
Well, if we do purchase that piece of property, we ought to go ahead and talk T-Dot and see if we can fill in that. And, you know, somebody may want to get rid of some dirt, and we start, just be that much more problem.
The storm drains are already up. I mean, if you drive by there, you'll see the sewer drains, storm drains are already up high enough for that. They prepared for that some time ago. You know, so they've got to be able to build on that property.
Well, I know it's hold up, election sign good, because that's what mine always was.
But again, under either alternatives, we have the right to walk away if there were environmental issues or something came up, or the appraisal, for example, would come supporting purchase property.
Which, you know, whatever we have to do, speaking on the side of the fire department, we will have to be out of that station down there here in just a couple of months. We, in the winter, we'll work on some other options, but, this is something that we really need to stay on.
Right.
Are you saying you would like to have a roof over your head?
I'm saying yes, we will, because
Which we,
I won't let them do anything I won't do myself. I will stay there with them at the same time.
probably the first meeting in November, we need to talk about an architect and start that process, but this was the first.
Mike, you may not want to take that tent down after Christmas.
That's why you read my mind, I don't have to, because he was.
Don't tell my wife that.
Work out of his new truck,
It sounds like we're basically in agreement on how to proceed there. So we'll hear more about it next week. All right. Item K, ordinance number 981, in regard to the zoning ordinance amendment.
An ordinance of the city of East Ridge, Tennessee, to amend East Ridge zoning ordinance number 481 here on first reading. As I mentioned to the mayor and council earlier in the agenda session, this is to bring the zoning ordinance in conformity with apparently what we've been doing now for quite some time. So these are technical amendments, they're not substantive amendments.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any comments? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethune.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. Item L, resolution 2435.
Again, that'll come on for second reading, not next week, the next week. A resolution of the City Council of the City of East Ridge, Tennessee, approving bids for the purchase of soccer uniforms for the 2014-2015 indoor soccer season.
Make a motion to approve.
The motion and a second to approve. Any comments? Roll call, please. We're approving the staff recommendation. That was Custom Works? Yes. All right. Okay. At 4:15. All right. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Bethune.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
And item M, discussion of playground. We already discussed it quite a bit during the agenda session.
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Make a motion to approve and a second, and we do have the issue of how exactly to pay for it. As Thad mentioned earlier, that could be financed as part of what we're doing with the,
I'd like us to add that to the second, the budget amendment on second reading. Just the council.
Well, yes, no, we're not.
and we could vote to go ahead and do it now,
Yes.
which would give Stump what he needs, and then it would come back next week, or excuse me, first meeting in November for the second reading on that. So what we want to do, sound
Yes,
good?
sir.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Bethune.
Yes.
Councilmember Manning.
Yes.
Councilmember Stoll.
Yes.
Mayor Lambert.
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Again, if you have opportunity, make sure you get out to the park on Saturday night for the concert. Have a great evening.